Hey there, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here, and today on this episode of the podcast, I wanted to talk about the explosion of Alibaba campers. So, as someone who has recently purchased one of these myself, it's kind of been on my mind to sort of talk about, this explosion of these Chinese products, these Chinese caps, these Chinese campers, and kind of where I think it's going, right? Is this just starting? Is this ending? Like, what's going on? So if you want to hear more about this Alibaba camper craze, stay tuned.
Understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip.
All right, so as I mentioned in the intro today, I'm talking about this explosion of Alibaba camper shells, caps for trucks. There's been a large influx, I feel like, on YouTube just in general of people purchasing these things. Tons of videos being made, right, about how, hey, I just bought my first Alibaba camper and things like that. Just tons and tons of content coming out around these things. And I ordered mine back in January of 2026. It's now July. I got it about a month and a month ago. And I love it. Overall, very, very good. I'll talk a little bit about quality. I'll talk a little bit about pros and cons, the risks of buying these things in this episode. But want to start just with the is it exploding thing, right? Like, obviously, as I said, I see a lot of content coming out around these things. So I do kind of feel like it's exploding. And I feel like it's kind of rightfully so that it's exploding, right? And what I mean by that is, for most of us that have been in this like overlanding space for 2, 3, 4 years plus, there has always been a very high cost associated with gear related to overlanding, right? And I know rooftop tents and stuff for a long time, just to get like a really basic like cloth, soft shell, soft fabric rooftop tent was $1,000, $1,200, $1,500. To get a hard shell wedge style, there were only a couple brands making them a few years ago, and they were easily $2,000 to $2,500 or more. In the case of like an iCamper, the big name brand guys, anywhere from $2,500 to $4,500 was pretty normal for a hard shell type wedge style rooftop tent. And so, back then, even those to me, especially were, cost prohibitive, right? Like it's just, I didn't want to spend $2,000, $3,000 or more on a rooftop tent. Then you have to get a bed rack. Then I got to get a drawer system or some sort of way to store my gear. You know what I mean? There were so many big expenses. So like I bought one of the first tents that became available on Amazon, which was the Raptor series tent. It was a soft shelled tent, not a hard shell. So it had this god awful, it wasn't even a zipper. It was like a elastic banded cover that went over this thing with hooks. And so you'd have to walk around your truck 4 or 5 times, pulling down on it, getting it around the corners and everything. I ripped it almost like immediately once I bought it, like the second or third time I went out, I ripped it and had to repair it because like buying a cover, first of all, wasn't even possible. And even if it had been, it probably would have been a few $100. So that was the first tent that I had. Then I went into a hard shell wedge style and it was awesome. But that was like, I think that one was the Nature Nest, which was actually a pretty cheap one, but this was a few years later, right? That was on my second vehicle. By the time I got my second vehicle is when I went to the wedge style. And that thing was, $1,200, $1,400, somewhere in that ballpark. Nowadays, you can get them, hard shell, really nice ones with some nice features. That was also very bare bones back then. Now you can get them with Anderson plugs built into the bottom to fully power the thing, to power your lights and stuff, to make it really easy to hardwire the tents. For $1,000, $1,200, somewhere in that ballpark. But again, the name brand stuff is still pretty expensive. I mean, even Top Oak stuff and Open Road stuff for a hard shell with the X hinge at the bottom, $1,800 to $2,200, somewhere in that ballpark. So, overlanding in general is fairly cost prohibitive. As we all know, last week I talked about, the overlanding tax and kind of how that has become problematic for a lot of us and how, in some ways it feels kind of like you're being gouged, right? So then that brings us to the, topic of this video, which is the Alibaba camper craze. And I don't even know why people call them campers. To me, camper is kind of a weird term. I think it's a rooftop tent attached to a bed cap is basically the best description I could give it. Because when I say camper, people are like a slide-in camper. Like, what do you mean camper? But so like a bed cap, right, with a pass through into a rooftop tent is what I'm talking about. And, that's essentially what mine is, but it removed the wedge style from it. So I get added foot room. There's a lot of benefits that come with this, but to me, this was never even a consideration because for a lot of the American made or even just American distributed campers like this, pass throughs into a rooftop tent through an enclosed cap, you were talking 8 to 12 grand low side, right? For like a cloth sided one that's like a wedge style pop-ups. So, there are a number of American brands that make those things, but there are easily a lot of them like the Tunes and like the great quality. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about those. And if I could afford to spend 15 to 20 grand, I may do that, but it's just difficult to justify that kind of expenditure when you're talking about, you've already got, if you got a newer vehicle, 40 to 55 grand or more into a truck. And that's for a midsize, right? These Frontiers, I mean, I remember even 6 to 8 years ago, you could get a Pro 4X Frontier for 35, 37 grand, somewhere in that ballpark. You could get an SV or the lower trim trucks for high 20s, low 30s, somewhere in that range. And, these like the Trail Hunter Tacomas are what, 60 to 65 grand. The Roush versions of the Frontiers are really expensive too, 55, 60. I've seen them for 65 grand. The dealers are marking them up and stuff. But so for a mid-sized truck, even at that higher price, you're still talking, if you're spending 20 grand on a camper, a third of the price of the cost of your truck, which, maybe for some people that's affordable, but for me, and I feel like a lot of other people, it's not. So, as for the explosion of the Alibaba campers, yes, I feel like kind of rightfully so, they are exploding. I feel like there are a lot of people like me that are, have ordered these things, have started to get these things. I feel like it kind of started to get posted around social late last year to early 2026. I ordered mine in January, so it took about 5 months to get here, and then I got it late June, early July. And I've had it for about a month. I've gone out in it once now. I'm getting ready to go out in it a second time. But I mean, I'm telling you, the enclosed space, the added security, the added privacy, the extra space from having it all be enclosed and accessible from both the tent and the bed of the truck. To me, there's so many benefits to this style of truck camper that I absolutely think it is exploding and should explode because we all wanted it, but we just couldn't afford it before. And so now that it is more affordable because you can buy direct via Alibaba, for example, mine's a Hyperline outdoor camper. I'll put a link in the description below and a coupon code to get you a couple free accessories. If you want one of these things, like now you can get this for the price of a rooftop tent and a bed rack. I mean, even on the low end, let's say you bought the literal cheapest nature nest you could get and the literal cheapest bed rack, you're still 2 grand into that setup, right? So if you don't want to deal with the ladder, climbing up and down a ladder, being exposed, if you go in the winter like I do a lot, and you got to worry about slipping on slippery, icy steps. If you drink bourbon like I do, and you may have to use the facilities more than once a night, having to mess with that ladder, the ladder freezes sometimes. That's happened to me where the ladder froze and I couldn't get it to open. And I'm like, how am I going to get into my tent? Having to mess with that ladder, that exterior access to the thing, it's just not ideal, right? No privacy. It's hard to change your clothes in there. You can't really go to the bathroom in there. Like, it's a whole thing, right? But so with the availability of these campers now through Alibaba and the conveniences and security that they offer, yeah, they're exploding, and I think rightfully so. All right, but now let's talk a little bit about risk, right? And the good thing is, I'm not just speaking hypothetically here, which that is the thing that I notice a lot online on Facebook groups and things like that, is there are so many people that have not ordered these things, that have absolutely no experience with them. Maybe they know someone that bought something through Alibaba, or maybe they're equating Alibaba to Temu or something like that, right? And they're like, I would never spend that much money on Alibaba. I wouldn't trust it. It's a scam. Everything's a scam. The quality is going to be garbage. You're going to get a camper that's for a small RC car for the 5 grand or whatever that you spend, the 3,500 bucks. There's just a ton of negativity around it, but and there is risk, right? Like I definitely don't want to downplay the risk. I was a little nervous when I ordered mine in January of 2026. I was like, man, I'm putting 1,200 bucks out here to a company in China that I don't really have any recourse against or jurisdiction against. I can't like call the BBB or anything and get help. And it was a little nerve-wracking, but the thing that pushed me over the edge was that I had talked to, people, not people that I knew or was friends with, but people that had received these campers, and they were willing to share and, send over pictures and videos and stuff. And so after doing some research like that and hearing from them, like, wow, I'm really impressed with this thing. And like, it kind of looks exactly like some of the domestic versions that are probably just distributed, resold Chinese campers, right? That kind of pushed me over the edge. And I was like, you know what, for the money, again, if it gives me some convenience, if it lasts for 5 years or something, and maybe I have to make some tweaks, maybe I have to make some modifications, maybe I have to make some repairs or fix some leaks or something. The alternatives for me were, you know, $3,500 to $5,000, depending on shipping and taxes and tariffs, to take the risk on it and potentially have something really, really good for a really budget price, or worst case, have something that's a little bit of a project that is kind of an ongoing DIY sort of thing that at least gives me the basis for it, right? And is still cheaper than I could have just even sourced materials or even kind of hoped to make something like this for myself for cost-wise. But there are risks. So, you know, that's what I would say is read the reviews, search around online, especially now because the information is exploding about these things. You know, I didn't order a Qian, Qian, but I've heard that Qian and Hyperline were essentially part of one company, and then they split off and they got their own manufacturing facilities. And Hyperline is one that makes very similar campers to Qian. And I've talked to people with both, and they're both very happy with the customer service that they've gotten. They're both very happy with the products. So I can, from experience, definitely speak to the Hyperline because I've got that. And just to throw it out there, if you are interested in these things and you'd like to talk to the gal that I talked to, who was amazing, feel free to shoot me an email at allthingsoverlanding@gmail.com, and I'm happy to connect you with her so you can ask questions, so you can talk. Like I mentioned in the description below is a link to where you can place your order. What that does is it actually pushes through like an invoice or an order to them, and then they create it in Alibaba so that you have the protections of Alibaba, which reduces your risk, right? But that is kind of how I did it. And so I know Hyperline is really good, and I've heard that Qian is really, really good too. Now there seem to be a million new ones popping up every day, so you do want to be careful. You don't want to go for one that is $500 less because it looks the same, right? You don't know about their manufacturing processes. If you don't know about their customer service, then you are definitely taking a risk. So again, do not want to downplay the risky part of this, but what made me feel good is Alibaba is actually pretty good. Like they have some protections. They do take a small fee. I think it cost me about $150 extra. When I made my final payment, I had to make a $150 like security payment to Alibaba. And the reason for that is because they ensure that, you know, you're getting a quality product, and that if something were to happen, that you have some recourse, that you have a way to, you know, try and get your money back through Alibaba. It's kind of like insurance, right? So yes, there's risk, but again, if you do a Hyperline or a Qian, I really wouldn't worry about it. I would feel pretty good about that because they've taken really great care of me, and everybody that I've heard that's used them has been really good. So hopefully that helps a little bit on the risk side of it. So to kind of wrap this episode up, let's talk about kind of who these campers are right for, in my opinion, and also where I think the market is going. So as far as who the campers are right for, I think if you obviously have a more thorough dedication to overlanding, camping, vehicle, car camping, whatever you want to call it. If you like to camp out of your vehicle, you like to be more self-sufficient, you don't really want to have to, you know, pack modularly. Like if you have an SUV that you use to haul your kids around all the time, and it's easier for you to throw a couple Plano crates full of gear into the back and some sleeping bags when you're ready to go camping, this is not for you, right? If you have a truck that you use as a truck a lot, the nice thing about the cap is I can still kind of use it, right? If I don't build this out too much on the inside, I can still use this as a truck. But eventually, I mean, I think most people are going to want to build it out, right? Like if you put this much effort into it, you're going to want the dual battery setup. You're going to want a fridge. You're going to want electronics run throughout the thing. You're going to want a bench to sit on. You're going to want something to step up into the rooftop tent. So I can definitely see mine. I'm going to start simple and I'm going slow, but eventually it's going to turn into a big full-on build. So you do want to think about that. If you have to use your bed of your truck, if you are not really ready to enclose it, then it may not be a good fit for you. So where's the market going? I mean, again, we live in a capitalist society, right? I would, of course, much rather support U.S. companies and things. But when you get into the multiple game, when you're talking 3, 4, 5 times the cost of these campers, it just becomes very difficult, right? Like, as I mentioned, I had looked at some, American made campers or American distributed and sourced campers. And I was just like, even at 10 or 12 grand, I'm like, that's just so much money. Like it doesn't make sense for me. The bed rack and the rooftop tent for, $3,500 worth, $4 grand worth was fine. Right. And so I do feel like the market is going to continue to, the capitalist market is going to continue to say, hey, we're going to reward these companies that are selling these things for $3,500 plus shipping. Right. So that's kind of where I see it going. I hate to say it. And again, I am very pro-American manufacturing. I would love it, but we don't have the manufacturing resources over here anymore. They're gone, right? For the most part. So then everything kind of becomes a little bit boutique. Our cost of labor is really expensive, which people need to earn a living wage. So I'm all for good wages for people too, right? But in this space, with something like these that are sort of mass produced, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for American companies to compete in this space, unfortunately. And you also see this sort of rush, and this is annoying too, I think, you see this rush by a bunch of American resellers to just purchase in bulk these things and then mark them up and claim that they're going to give you better customer service or that they're going to give you some sort of warranty. But then I see horror stories of people saying, I bought this thing, it looks exactly like a Hyperline, it's branded as a Hyperline or a Kin or whatever, and I bought it from this shop, and now the shop is gone and I don't have any recourse, I don't have anybody to talk to, and blah 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 blah. So I like I've had some of these camper companies reach out to me because they've seen my videos and seen that I have one of these, and they're like, hey, if we sold you these in bulk, would you buy them and store them in a warehouse and resell them for us? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. I am a customer service guy, and if I were to do that, I would want to like establish processes for all that and make sure that my customers were getting really good, service and things like that. But I would never tie my personal brand to something like that, because I mean, even, as great as Hyperlion is or Kin is, and I've had a great experience, I am across the world from them, right? So if something were to happen tomorrow and they'd go away, you don't know. You just never know, right? So again, I'm very happy with my camper. I'm very happy with the company. I love the communication. I can speak highly of my experience with them, but you just, so much is out of your control with that risk. It's a little bit much. So where the market's going, I think it's tricky. I think it will remain to be seen what's going to happen, right? Like, I'm very curious to see what happens. I could see some sort of a hybrid thing where maybe there becomes like US distribution by these companies directly for these things, directly over here. Like if they established a US storefront or something like that directly, like if there was a Hyperlion distribution center over here that, they grow enough that they do something like that, I could see that being a huge win for everybody, right? Because like right now, when these people buy it and resell it, they claim customer service, they claim warranty type stuff, but it's like a dude in a shop that bought 10 of them who's reselling them, and he may work his hardest or she may work their hardest, to try and help. But if they can't get parts, if they can't get stuff to service it, if they go out of business because they spent too much and have too much overhead, like, there are always risks with that sort of stuff. So I think this direct from China stuff is going to continue to grow. That's kind of my opinion on it, because that's where the manufacturing base is now, because Alibaba gives you those protections, because you can have a good experience purchasing if you were patient and can wait the amount of time that it takes for these things to get manufactured and then shipped over and trucked to your house. I think it's just going to keep blowing up. So, obviously this is a controversial topic. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you're listening to the podcast or watching the podcast on YouTube, post up in the comments. If you're on Spotify, same thing. If you're just listening on the regular podcast anywhere else, that's awesome. Thank you for listening. But hop over to my social channels. They're all linked in the description down below, and post up. Let me know what you think. I also will post this episode in Newbie Overlanders on Facebook, free group to join, link in the description below. So if you want to join that group and kind of join the conversation there, that is another way to do it. If you're watching on YouTube, there's also a join button below this video, which is just sort of a passive way to support the channel. It gets you early access to the videos, to these podcasts that I do. So check that out. But if you want to be more involved with all things overlanding, there's also a link to my Patreon. $5 and up gets you access to our 24/7 Discord. We do a once a month Zoom call, which actually we have one tonight. And then we're going on a couple of trips per year. We've gone to Land Between the Lakes, West Virginia, Hoosier National Forest. We're going to the Ozarks this September, which is going to be a ton of fun. There's going to be some other YouTubers there, I think, so that will be a good time. But so if that sounds good, check out the Patreon. And then, as I mentioned, there's Newbie Overlanders. Last but not least, there is a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding patches and stickers, things like "Don't burn your wiener" and "It's a hot dog," or "I hate people so I camp." So there's tons of patches and stickers over there if you want anything like that. But again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you want to be connected with Hyperlion, just shoot me an email at allthingsoverlanding@gmail.com, and I'm happy to help. And I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.